Thanks for listening to today's Tech Cove. We hope you've enjoyed today's program. Tune in again next week at the same time for another edition with Sean Hosbury.
You know, Sean sure is spending a lot of time not here. What's he up to?
I'm not sure, Kendra, but I know about the surprise he's managed.
You mean the station manager interview? Cool. We'll get to hear from Fearless Leader. But, first, how to use your iPhone. Sean will help us with that starting next show. Send in your questions.
And now, tax time tips.
Our guest this evening to talk about TurboTax and taxes in general is Ted Drake. And Ted, you're in California, correct?
That's correct. I'm in San Diego. Okay. And, today I'm in San Diego because I'm visiting the TurboTax team.
Okay.
But normally I'm in the Bay Area.
Now, I have been told, and I will be curious as to your thoughts, I've been told that if a person was going to move anywhere in the United States solely on the basis of climate, that San Diego is one of those places that a person would need to go.
I grew up in San Diego, and I would agree with that. It's about 65 to 75, about 300 days out of the year. Mm. And when it's not within that 10 degrees, it's, it never gets above 100 and never gets below 50.
Gotcha.
And it rains about 10 days a year.
Wow. Amazing. Okay.
So yes, it's the weather is amazing in San Diego.
Well, recently you took the time, and we really appreciate it that you did. You posted in the AppleVis forum a tip some tips on using the iOS version of TurboTax to kind of do your taxes for 2016. Well, first of all, talk to us a little bit about your work with Intuit and the TurboTax team, and kind of how you came to know so much about this topic.
So I joined Intuit about 4 years ago. I manage accessibility of products across the Intuit product scheme. Before that, I worked for Yahoo, and I was one of the founding members of the Yahoo Accessibility Lab. So when I came to Intuit, I came down to visit the TurboTax team for the first time, and I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that they had already had their own accessibility group going for a couple of years.
Nice.
So they've been working on making TurboTax accessible for at least 6 years now.
Okay.
It's part of their core. Whenever they do building, they've integrated automated testing. They integrate user testing. Engineers know about it. They've been using platforms that they've developed over the years that include accessibility. So, in general, they've been working really hard on this, and I've been really happy. I come down once a month, and I meet with the teams building this stuff. And then as we get into the tax season, we're testing, making sure nothing happens. Not introducing any errors.
Well, before we jump into TurboTax specifically, what is the product line that Intuit covers that would be related to it, finance as far as blind people are concerned, or anyone, I guess, for that matter?
So Intuit has two main missions, you could say. Okay. The first mission is to help small businesses run and manage their business. Mm-hmm. So that would be our QuickBooks line. That also includes GoPayment, which is point of sale, payroll. And then the QuickBooks ecosystem also helps you do things like inventory control, marketing, managing your healthcare, things like that. But it's all based on businesses from 1 person to 500. We don't really deal with enterprise.
Okay.
Then the other main mission we have is to help people do their taxes. So that would be TurboTax, TurboTax Online. We have software for professional accountants to help people do their taxes. And then we also have money management products like Mint. And we used to have Quicken, but we're in the process of selling off Quicken. It's going to become its own product.
Okay. That's very interesting.
So Mint is one of yours. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's good to know.
That is.
I was just looking at the forum topic that you had written, and I saw that Mint was a recommended thing, so I was just curious. That's good to know.
I actually worked at Yahoo Finance when Mint came out, and I remember Yahoo Finance. We were really scared by Mint because it did some really great stuff. The way that it helped people manage their money. I've always thought of Mint, and this is a really brief way of describing it, but Mint is like Quicken, but it's read-only. It basically allows you to watch all of your finances, but you don't pay your bills through it.
Right.
You watch, and then you go back to your bank account to do, make a payment. Whereas Quicken allowed you to watch, but it also allowed you to pay bills and did some forecasting and stuff.
Okay. I played with Mint just briefly on Windows. I have not looked at it on iOS or on the Mac. What are your thoughts right now as far as accessibility goes on either of those two platforms?
I would suggest our mobile app.
Okay.
Not that the website is really bad, but the website hasn't been updated as much as we'd like.
Okay.
But the Mint for iOS is probably going to be your best bet. Our mobile apps are really good. We don't do strange things on our mobile apps. We don't have weird knobs and sliders. We don't try to redesign the interface. So we use standard components, and we focus the apps on doing specific tasks. So typically, when you open up an Intuit app for iOS or Android, it's going to work pretty well. I find that when I evaluate one of our applications, usually there's little that I have to, send the developers a note about.
Okay, that's great to know. Well, when it comes to taxes, it's one of those things nobody really wants to do, but everyone has to. And I suppose the first question that we probably should ask, and again, this isn't specifically accessibility related, but why do your own taxes rather than just pay a little money and have some professional do it for you?
I think the payoff is maybe because I've done both myself, and I've paid to have my taxes done when I had things that made me stressed. For instance, when I moved from, I lived in Europe for a couple of years. Okay. And when I came back from Europe, I knew I had a lot of complications, and I didn't want to worry about them. So with those complications, I went to a professional tax accountant, and I had them do my taxes. But if you're in a situation where, you got married, you bought a house, you bought a car, you have, jobs, you have investments, these are pretty standard things. And you can do your own taxes, save the money, and build your own confidence, knowing I know exactly what's going on with my taxes because I did it myself.
Sure,
there is that. That's a very good point. Is you can know. I mean, yeah, you assume that the professional is going to get it right, and 9 times out of 10, I'm sure they will. But at least if you do it yourself, I'm guessing that you would know with absolute certainty that if you either did it right, and if there was an issue, you did it yourself, and you can probably figure out where.
Yeah, not only that, but and I'm not just going to say TurboTax. All of the tax software products do this, but they guide you, and then there's a summary. So it's like, why did I get a refund on this, or why was my refund now? Well, let me go back and look, and it explains, well, you got this credit because you bought a house. You got this credit because you have a kid with a student loan. You paid this penalty because of this or that. So you can put in all the information, and then at the end of it, if you want to learn why things happen, then you've got all that information for you. If not, you can just send it off and be happy.
Sure. Now, is this something that you need to mail off, or is it all electronic when you get ready to send the forms?
It can be done either mailed or all electronic.
Okay.
Just depends. If you do want to pay electronic, you might have to pay a small fee. And the reason why I'm hesitant about that is if you have a really simple tax, maybe one job, you don't own property, you don't have rental equipment, you're not paying, divorce settlements or anything like that. If you have a pretty standard tax return, right now, if you do your taxes through Intuit, it may be completely free.
Okay.
We have our absolute zero, and a lot of people are getting their taxes at state and federal, for completely free. Where I'm hesitant is I don't know if there's a charge for filing with the government, because I think the government actually charges that.
Okay.
It's how ironic they charge you to pay them.
Right.
For the privilege of paying them.
Right, but you can always print and then send.
Okay. Good. Now, if you're someone like myself who is self-employed and does a lot of subcontracting stuff, is it still fairly easy to do online, or does it come a point where you might want to talk to a professional?
We have a brand new product for someone like you.
Okay.
And it's called QuickBooks Self-Employed.
Okay.
And the problem with the self-employed person, let's just say you're a delivery person, for an example, is that you have expenses that are mixed in between your professional and your personal.
Yep.
And you need to go through those expenses and quickly define this is personal and this is work. And then you have to figure out how much am I going to pay each quarter towards my taxes so that at the end of the year, everything's all figured out.
Yep.
And that's what QuickBooks Self-Employed does. It's a really simple interface for going through your expenses and quickly defining what's public or what's personal and what's commercial. And then it also configures how much you need to pay. And then it says at the end of the quarter, you need to send a check to the IRS for this amount kind of stuff. Now, I have to say this product is not as accessible as I would like.
Okay.
It was sort of a startup with an Intuit, and the web interface still has some issues. iOS works pretty well, and Android works fairly well.
Okay, very good. Fair enough. So someone listening to this might ask the question, can I make absolutely certain that TurboTax is going to have all the latest tax laws included? And I mean, that's going to be just seamless, right? It's going to all be updated.
Yes, you can count on that. We employ large amounts of tax attorneys and tax experts that are building all of the logic that powers TurboTax. And I mean, they work huge hours making sure everything's correct.
Right.
I remember one year when the government hadn't settled on a budget. I think we were going into December. It was just a few years ago.
Yeah.
We actually had to build 2 products because we didn't know. We didn't know what it was going to be like. So they were actually building 2 products just in case it went one way or the other.
That's interesting. Stuff that most
all
people
of that
wouldn't even think about. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that logic had to be configured one way or the other.
Oh, wow.
Wow. That's the upside of that is that should serve as a indicator to the users that you guys were committed to having a good product no matter what way it went, and that you were going to be accurate no matter what happened and quickly.
Right. Yeah. The user didn't know. That's the up part of that is that the user had no idea what was going on at the back end.
So when a person explores a new app or a website or anything like that, obviously for a blind person it's going to take a while. You need to really orient yourself and take some time and slow down, although that's better advice given than sometimes that I actually follow. But so what are some things that the accessibility team at Intuit have done to kind of ensure that this is going to be a really good experience? Talk about the accessibility implementation. You touched on it a little bit, but I'll give you some more time to expand on that.
So one of the things that we try to do is we think about the user experience, and not all. I can think about in specific instances for some of our apps where I can explain this a little bit better.
Okay.
But we realize that a person coming into the app using a screen reader is going to have a slightly different experience than someone that's sighted and using it without a screen reader, in that there's some context that's missing. And so some of the things that we've done is that maybe a button visually says, like for instance, on the online payroll app, there's a button that says test drive. And you can kind of get an idea what that means, but the accessibility label on that says, start up a sample business with online payroll. It's not quite that long,
right?
But again, we try to use accessibility labels that are a little bit more descriptive where we can, and we use accessibility labels quite often. We want to be able to take like tables where you might have 4 or 5 components, like an invoice number, the invoice total, the store, the category. Instead of having to read those as individuals, we try to create a understandable sentence using those strings. It's what the iOS user interface guide, what Apple tells us to do. They're saying if you've got these complicated interfaces, streamline them by creating an accessibility label that simplifies the announcement. So we think of those a lot, and we try to add context when that context is not obvious without the visual interface.
That's a really interesting idea, and more not just an idea, it's a mindset, this whole idea that accessibility is about providing the most relevant user experience to a user using assistive technology. It may not be the exact same interaction and methods of interaction that a sighted user would use, but it's going to be what's going to be most usable by the voiceover user and what's going to be the most relevant and give them the same functionality. So that's a really good idea, and I wish more developers looked at accessibility as more of a design and mindset.
So, Ted, at this point, someone listening might be wondering, are you a blind guy or are you someone with sight?
No, I have to say I am fully sighted. Although I have bad eyesight, I wear glasses.
Okay.
I'm fully sighted. But I've worked with many friends that are low vision and blind, and I understand through watching their interactions the difficulties and where things are better and where things are not. And I'm able to work with our engineers to better understand that. But we've also brought in a lot of user testing.
Okay.
As much as we can.
Sure, absolutely.
I wanted to go back to something that was mentioned. Now we were supposed to talk about TurboTax, but I brought up online payroll, which was actually reviewed by AppleViz in the past. And the team came to me and they said, "We're looking to build an app. What do we need to do to make it accessible?" So I met with the team, and I did about an hour-long presentation breaking down how iOS UI accessibility works, how you program it, what to look for. I taught them how to use VoiceOver. And then we looked at what is needed for an accessible experience. And that's where we said, these are the things you need for an accessible. And then once we understood the accessible experience, then it was, how do we make it exceptional? And that's one of the things that we look at it into it, is how do we make an exceptional experience? And that's where you start thinking about, if I was a user or if we bring in a user, where can we simplify the user interface or where can we add the context? And that's where they started looking at their buttons and their interface and saying, where do we need to improve the accessibility label? And where do we have to improve the accessibility hints? We also did this within TurboTax. This year we had a massive change on the infrastructure. And as they were building the basic core of this infrastructure, accessibility labels and accessibility hints are part of the data structure. So as people are building content, that's built into the core data structure so that we have those nodes available for anything that we do. From now on. And that's really helped us in TurboTax Mobile build a much more robust interface.
How does that work? Can you explain how that, in more layperson's details, what does that mean for the engineer who is, engineers are writing code and designing that? What is that having accessibility, having hints, right? What do you mean by that, I guess?
I guess from a developer, you can only put it so much into the interface. I mean, in order to put something into the interface, you need that information. And if you don't think about that information being required from the very beginning, it's probably not going to be given to the developer for the final product. So as we were building this new infrastructure for TurboTax, we were looking at, what do we need for accessibility? We need these bits of information. So they made sure that information was available. So that the developers could build that into the interface. Not just for mobile apps, but this also affects our web, our Android, our iOS, and our desktop. So we have a much more robust interface for screen readers, assistive technology in general.
Cool.
Yeah. So, a couple more questions, I think, before we let you go. First
I have
of
a couple
all,
too. So
excellent. Okay. If a person decides to just, jump into this, I'm going to do my taxes, I'm going to see what this is like, what's the best way to get started, and where do you get the app and that sort of thing?
Now, I personally, for accessibility reasons, I prefer the online and mobile version. Because we've been working on those nonstop for the past 7 months. And when you're dealing with desktop, the majority of the work was finished in August.
Okay.
And then you're doing, patches and stuff like that. So I think that the online and mobile apps in general have them more up to date. The desktop will have the latest laws, but so that's where I would start. I'd start with turbotax.intuit.com or turbotax.com.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that's nice is that you can pick up your phone, your tablet, you can use the phone, you can start your taxes on the phone, you can switch to a tablet later on in the day, and then you can switch to the web interface, and then you can go back to the phone. The interface and your tax return, it's all synchronized across all your devices.
Okay.
So that's one way of doing it also.
And I assume that the web component works as well in Safari as it would in like on OS 10 as it would any other platform?
Yes, it should. Well, if you're using Safari on OS 10, it should work fine.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I always recommend Safari, not Chrome or Firefox when it comes to VoiceOver.
Right. Okay.
You can count on Safari.
Sure, absolutely.
could you do the whole thing on your iPhone if you wanted to?
Sure. In fact, we do have, you can even take photographs of your W-2 and your tax forms, and we will scan them and then input that data directly into your tax. Now, it works great for low vision, and I'm going to be looking at some prototypes this week. We should work really well for completely blind individuals soon. We've been figuring out how best to surface information through the screen reader to say things like get closer, hold steady, that kind of thing.
Nice.
Because you're basically holding up a camera to your tax document. So having a little bit of vision certainly helps.
Okay. My last question, and then I'll throw it to Michael, and then we'll wrap and let you give contact info. But I know that you said that you're getting out of, you're selling Quicken. So is Intuit not going to be involved in personal finance at all? I'm kind of disappointed or sad to hear that if that's the case.
No, we're still going to have Mint, and we're integrating something called Mint Bills, which is similar to Quicken.
Right.
It's just, I understand it was hard for us to get rid of Quicken,
Sure.
But at the same time, Quicken wasn't getting the love that it needed, and it wasn't getting the resources it needed. So our hope is that by letting it move on and become its own company, that they'll be able to then do the work that's needed, because it had been updated and stuff, but it hasn't seen any major shifts in the last 5 years.
Sure. Okay.
Now, I do want to say in Quicken 2013, we made a change that affected keyboard accessibility, which also broke screen reader accessibility. And Quicken 14, right after we did that, we started working with some blind users to get their feedback, and we've made significant changes to Quicken. So Quicken 14, Quicken 15 work much better with the keyboard with screen readers. We've been testing with JAWS mostly, and that work is continuing. Even though Quicken is in the process of separating from Intuit, I'm still working with the team, and they're still dedicated. The knowledge of building accessibility into that Windows platform is part of the team now, and they're dedicated to continuing that work.
Okay, so my last question is, in general terms, we hear about accessibility on various platforms. We hear how app accessibility for various apps, some companies listen, some companies don't. Some companies are really willing to make their websites accessible and work on it, and some companies end up in court. Overall, in terms of trends and, comparing where we were 5 years ago to where we are now in terms of digital accessibility, where do you think where do you think we are, and what do you think the outlook is like?
I think where we have strong platforms like OS X, like let's not talk about OS X because that's not as much of a main component of iOS and Android. We have two very strong platforms where accessibility was built in the beginning. It's built in. Because Android, it was a little bit later. But the programmers can quickly make an app, and that app can be fairly accessible right off the bat. I think when we have strong platforms like that, you're going to see improved and continuing solid accessibility. Where we have non-strong platforms, for instance, HTML, the problem that we have is that the flavor of the month keeps changing. So developers will latch on to a platform, let's say it's jQuery, and it's not accessible. So then they work on it for a few years. They make the changes that are needed, and then they abandon it. And then they go to the next one, and then they go to the next one. And so it's like a roller coaster, and we're always trying to make fix our apps because people will latch on to something. Now, I have seen a couple things that I think are quite promising. Google released a very small library called Material Design Lite, and it was about how to make your HTML look like an Android app. And they thought about accessibility, and their documentation was full of accessibility. And if anybody was going to use that library, it was accessible. The other one is React, especially React Native that's coming out of Facebook. And once again, accessibility was part of the core of it. So if someone, in fact, we're starting to use React Native in TurboTax, it was not that hard for us to integrate accessibility into it because the library already had that. So I think when we see libraries coming out that think about accessibility from the core, it's going to be great.
So what I'm hearing you say, the sense I'm getting is that companies like Intuit are starting to really think about accessibility at a core level rather than, oh my goodness, okay, our last version just broke, so we got to try to fix that and make it so that blind people can use it. But there is a whole different mindset, a whole different way of approaching accessibility that maybe we haven't seen in the past as much.
Yeah, and also a lot of these libraries that are created, these flavor of the months that help people build websites quickly, they're not designed by large companies. Mm-hmm. These are small startups, and they're so interested in just trying to get things to work that they don't think about accessibility. One of the common ones that people used all over the place was Bootstrap. And Bootstrap was a little skunk work out of Twitter, but this was just a handful of people that built that. And it took a while for that Bootstrap to become accessible, and now people are kind of ignoring Bootstrap. so that's the problem that I see. I think is with HTML, with websites, we're always going to be in sort of a catch-up mode as long as developers are always looking for the new shiny library to play with. I do want to say one of the things I also look forward to, and I think we're going to see a little bit of both of this, is in wearables. The iOS watch, for example, super easy to develop for. When I first got my watch and I tested all of our Intuit apps on the watch, they all worked. They're all accessible. I found one button that needed a label, but that's because the watch format was quite easy to work with. As we get more wearables and more of these wearable platforms, it's going to be really questionable as to, can someone build a smart, like a Google Glass type application? Is it going to work for anybody? Or an ear-based wearable, or anything else like that? I think there's great potential, but there's also great potential for bad products.
I find this really fascinating. I appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to really give us some great information here.
Well, thank you. I'm a big fan of AppleVis, and I look forward to. I'm always kind of going into AppleVis to see if anybody's talking about Intuit products, because I know I can get an honest reaction from the people at AppleVis.
And we'll be sure and link to your forum post, the tips in the show notes. So if anyone's listening to this and you want to jump right to that, be sure and check out the show notes, and we'll link right to that. Ted, what is a good way for people to either contact you directly or just into it if they have questions?
Usually the best way to contact me is through Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And my Twitter handle is Ted_Drake, D-R-A-K-E.
Okay.
That's the simplest way of getting a hold of me.
Sure.
There is one thing I wanted to mention also. It's a website called Bizability, B-I-Z,
Okay.
ABILITY.org. And it was something that I worked on with J.J. Mehta of AT Guys,
Sure.
Blind Bargains. And our large inspiration was the AppleViz website.
Okay.
And it's a forum WordPress based site for accessible tools for small business owners.
Cool.
Excellent.
And we wanted people to be able to say, hey, I'm a small business and I need to set up a point of sale system. What's available out there that's accessible? Or I need to learn more about starting up a business, or I need to create a website. How can I create a website that's accessible? So bizability.org, that's
Okay.
where you'll find that stuff. And it's community-based, and we're looking for more feedback from others to make it bigger.
All right. Well, Ted, thank you so much for being a part
Yes,
of...
thank you.
Yes, and I'm sure we'll be in touch, and look forward to... You almost make me want to do my taxes. I didn't think that was going to be possible, but I'm almost excited
I'm not
about
so eager, but I'm certainly going to have to look into Mint, and
Yes.
certainly know that when it comes time to do that and do the taxes by myself and not pay someone to do it, that Intuit software is going to be accessible for me.
Yeah, I played with Mint like for one whole day and then never went back to it. So, and that was, as I say, that was on the web interface. So I will definitely check out the iOS app of that and play with it some more.
You know, one of the cool things about Mint is when you do your taxes,
Mm-hmm.
and you just press a button and you log into Mint, or if you use the same account for TurboTax and Mint,
Right.
Mint will go to all of your investments and bank accounts, and it will pull in all of your tax forms
Mm-hmm.
from all of the accounts that you use in Mint. So that greatly simplifies your tax process when you use Mint.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, that's going to take care of this episode of the AppleVis Extra podcast. I'm Jamie Pauls. You can contact me on Twitter at Jamie Pauls, JamiePauls. And Michael, how can people get a hold of you?
Probably the easiest way is on Twitter. My Twitter username is at MH, as in M as in Michael, H as in Hanson, 3129, or you can email me at Michael, Michael, 3129 at Outlook, OUTLOOK.com.
All right. Take care, everyone.
And now,
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
again,
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto!
wrong hat.
I take a 7.5.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
An interview here at the Tech Cove. I am here with one Derek Barnes, who is the manager of this station.
Yes.
I promise I won't do any groveling because it's too cold to get grovel and rocks outside. So tell me, how what inspired you to create this magnificent atmosphere for all the world to experience?
Well, I'd always dreamed of being in radio, being involved in radio at some degree or some level.
Mm-hmm.
There was a local AM station that I believe is still here. It's not locally owned anymore, but it's
not. Yeah, they're all eaten up by Clear Channel Communications.
Yeah, but when it was locally owned, a friend of mine and myself, we would go in there and do like an evening shift. Just had a whole lot of fun. You could get away with, quite a bit. It was a gospel station that played, strictly gospel music. But as long as it was clean and family friendly, you could get away with a lot. And we did. We did multiple characters and things like that. And so fast forward to maybe 11 years later, a friend of mine worked with me, and I had said to him, I said, I would love to be involved in radio at some degree or level. And he says to me, well, you can create an online internet station. And I thought it was like super hard to do. He says, no. He says, I'll help you set it up. And so I didn't get to do a whole lot with it initially after he set it up. But I ran my own Shoutcast server off of my own computer for a while.
Ah, the good old Winamp days.
Yeah. And so he set up a website for me. He was the one who had to update it a lot because he used front page extensions, which are not really accessible for us, I don't believe. So fast forward a little bit later, a few years later, in 2009, I basically restructured the website, wrote it from the ground up, from scratch, and then launched everything on January 29th of 2009. Since then, this coming up 29th of this year will be our 7th year. When I first set it up in 2009, I basically did it by myself. Didn't have any DJs with me. 2012, I had a few DJs that migrated over from another station. Skip forward a little bit to 2015. Darren Duff came on board, and it was like a flurry. It was just,
Well, you built it, and they came.
Yeah, as the old baseball thing says. I mean, they just and I mean, there are more DJs coming on board. So it's just amazing. I think we'll be up to like 8 or 9 DJs now.
Hey,
so
that's great.
Yeah,
including myself.
Exactly. Yes.
So, for the people who don't know, because if you don't mind, I'll probably put this out like on a few blind lists, just to lure more in. About yourself, you are totally blind, partially blind.
Totally.
Okay, so you're. They say I'm doing this like I'm a sighted person. Go figure. And so you're a totally blind individual who owns their own radio station, and or most of the DJs, some of the DJs, or they have a disability as well.
They do. Most of them, well, I think all of them, to my knowledge, are, if not partially, they're totally blind. And some have, a little bit of light perception and things like this.
But it's all covered by the word blind.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But
it's great.
Do the shows vary from topic to topic, or there's a specific show? Like, I should know. Mine is a technology radio show, and of course you do the morning drive. But the other shows, like say for instance, is there for somebody who likes country music, is there a country-based theme show?
Yes, they're from DJ Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Her and her husband Shane are in Texas, and she broadcasts a show called The Country Highway, and that is on every Tuesday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central.
Yeah, and for the individuals who are just more curious, unless you want to give a few more examples, because I'm curious about Darren's show, and I need to take my own advice that I'm going to say as well. Check the schedule at www.95-the-mix.com, and yes, I will give that address slowly later on. But like Darren Duff, you mentioned, what type of show does he do?
He just kind of sort of does like a off the cuff kind of fly by the seat of your pants show. he'll pull a playlist up, and sometimes he'll kind of sort of plan in advance to some degree for the show. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he just throws stuff together and says, "Okay, let's just do a show."
Yeah.
But it's always interesting because it's fueled on listener interaction, listenership and listener interaction, and it's just really there's a lot of interaction between Darren and the people that are listening. There'll be Skype calls or team talk calls or something like that, and it's really, really neat. It's always very unpredictable. It's an awesome show.
When does he come on?
He will be on every Thursday from 12 to 2 p.m. Central, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern.
That's good relaxed time. Or digest and indulge in Darren. just off the record here.
Yes.
But I have definitely enjoyed doing the radio show. And it's definitely taught me a lot about myself. So if there are any other blind individuals or sighted individuals who are either just curious or who would want to possibly become a DJ and have a show, I mean, are there gaps still open, so to speak?
Oh yes, there are. You can check out our schedule page. Like I said, there's a lot of different slots that are open. Also, if you are interested, whether you're blind, partially blind, totally blind, or sighted, and you'd like to be, you're interested in possibly doing something on the mix or getting involved in radio, on the main page of our website, we have a DJ form. You fill that in. It'll ask for things like your name, your email address, the name of your show, your DJ name, your radio name, the time slot you're interested in, the type of music you'll be playing, so forth and so on.
Now you guys did take that thing about blood type off the application, right?
But it's really, really neat. You send that back, you submit that, and then I get an email of the form with everything that you filled in. Then the other thing that we ask is that there is on our website, the main page, I believe, there is a voluntary DJ agreement, and we ask that you sign that. We ask that you pull it up and read it, and if you agree with it, sign that, and fill in your name where it says DJ name. Just erase that and fill in your name. And send it back to me, and my email address is 95themix@earthlink.net, 95themix@earthlink.net, and I will receive that as well. And if you don't have any problems with the form and you agree to it and you sign it, then we would love to have you aboard. It's all family-friendly stuff, so as long as you do something, you can do whatever you like, as long as it's in good, clean fun and family-friendly. We welcome you.
Yeah, and as some of you have heard from my show, I've gotten a little terribly creative with some things when during the first season of the show. That's what I'm calling it, and I'm sticking with it. The first season of the show with Siri and Sally and Joey and different plots in between and skits and things. So yeah, it's definitely a fun station to be involved with, and
and just to kind of add to what you're saying, those little skits between the synthesizers are really, really cool. That takes a lot of work, I know, and
sometimes the not to tell one of my own secrets. We'll just keep it between you and me. And the other 1,000 people who may possibly listen.
Yes.
Sometimes the plots just, happen spur of the moment at the last minute. And it's fun to do because I know people will appreciate it. Like, unbeknownst to me, I was on the train going down to New Orleans to visit some family. And because I was born there, I already know about it, with the jambalaya and the gumbo and all that kind of stuff. No tourism. So somebody was actually listening to my show on the train. And I heard them laughing, and they said, "Well, that's another blind person. You might want to, And I'm like, "Okay, that's okay, whatever." So I sat by them and they're, "Hey, what are you listening to?" And they're like, "Your voice sounds familiar." I said, "What are you listening to? I'm curious." And they pulled the plug out of their iPhone, and it was my show. So I wasn't sure whether to be. I was complimented, but still on the realm of being kind of embarrassed or they were listening to the little flashback where Siri was one-upped by Sally by playing Boogie Shoes instead of playing an Apple article when she was introducing it. So,
yeah. Very cool.
But as I progress along, I'm getting better and better at this. So if you're fairly new to radio and your skills aren't too good, it's definitely a growing and learning process. So I definitely recommend it.
And I always like to try new things. So if you guys that have been listening to the station for quite some time, if you have feedback, if there are shows that you would like to see on the station, send us feedback through email or Twitter.
Or even topics. Sorry to step on your coattail.
For the Tech Cove, yeah.
Wait, no, that's not what I'm saying. Don't feed me back. No. What I meant was line. What I meant was, even if it's topics, if you wanted to see a certain topic or certain movies for the late night double picture.
Exactly.
This week some people may think it's kind of boring, but I actually found a version dramatized of Phantom of the Opera that leaves out a great deal of details. And it's all done in Dolby surround sound, so that'll be a treat, I think, for everybody.
Oh, wow! Yeah.
In fact, the woman who narrates it, she incorporates eating chocolates into the recording there, and I thought, that's neat. She's taking a break while she's narrating the story, promoting French chocolates. Before I thought that was rude, but I looked it up and that sounds good.
Wow, that's interesting.
So
that's interesting.
I have a question that I had on my mind for a while that I've been wanting to ask, and maybe some other people have had it in mind also. Now, the station is 95, The Mix. But did you pick that number, since we know the story now of when you started, did you pick that number from, as far as the year 1995, or it was just a number that was given?
Actually, I came up with that number because there was a station up in Dothan, Alabama that I used to always listen to early in the mornings, and it was a TV station and a radio station together, sort of thing, in one building. And there was this guy by the name of Red Holland. I'm assuming he's passed on now. My dad really, really loved to watch him. And in the mornings, he was just a down home kind of a guy. And
a good old boy.
Yeah.
A nice one.
Yeah. And he the number of the station was, and I can't remember the call letters, but it was 95 on the AM dial. I mean not AM, but FM. I'm sorry. I don't know, something about that number just kind of sort of stuck with me, and so I used it for the mix. Yeah,
that's fabulous. A great homage to your dad, which created a in my realization, because I've talked to a lot of people around the world, and of course they've mentioned your station, by the way. So you've created from your family to ours, so to speak, a extended family friendly station with family friendly DJs, and that's great.
Yeah, it's really awesome. My thing is, if I can make a difference someplace, if somebody gets up and they're depressed or not really feeling their best or something, my thing is to try and make people smile and bring some happiness into people's lives. Let them know, just kind of sort of mix it in with what I'm doing. Let them know a little bit about God and what God has done for me, and
share it along.
That He can do the same thing for them.
Yeah.
So it's just a whole lot of fun, and it's amazing how it has built up and become what it is over these past almost 7 years now. So,
wow,
and it's really fun to be a part of something like this.
Something that's making a difference in the world. I
right.
Definitely understand that, because I'm a part of it, and I'm definitely honored. I mean, not that we're switching the tails and you're interviewing me, but when you were like, well, I think that you should be I think that you should actually do a tech radio show. What? I can't do that.
And I said, yes, you can.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I encouraged him.
Yeah.
He
did it on purpose, guys.
I did. I just kept pestering him. I said, do a show, because the thing about it is everything that you would always tweet, dude, was like, you talked about some new gadget or some type of technical thing or something, and like the whole thing that you did with Siri way back in the day, where you made Siri tell the story, and this was back before they changed the Siri voice from Samantha, because remember when it was a part of voiceover?
Yeah.
And that was just so much cooler because she was more vocal about things. I wish they would do that again. Yeah. Apple, if you're listening.
Well,
but when you started to do your show, because you and I had been talking for some time.
Oh yeah, a while.
On Skype,
about a year. We talked about that about a year or so. I'll do it.
And I'm so glad you came on board, because I'm just really glad you came on board, because it's added such a great, such a great, it's added to the lineup of the shows, and you do it, like you said, with such creativity until every show is different, but it's awesomely put together.
Thank you.
And you do a fantastic job on the Tech Cove. If you haven't heard it, the Tech Cove, every Saturday, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, on the mix. Shameless plug, but I don't care because it's my station and I can. So
and yes,
he does a great job, guys.
For the people
He
at
really
home,
does.
yes, he's making me blush.
He does a really great job, and you guys should check it out.
Thank you. You
Yes,
know
sir.
what was really fun for me to do? It was really fun for me to do the whole the Christmas episodes, and even though it's not Christmas because we just got a barrage of cold air, I'd still listen to them on occasion because I'm like, wow, that's really good. I mean, I'm enjoying it, and I did it. You know, 'cause usually you don't want to listen to what you just did.
Right,
But,
exactly. You're always trying to find things to do better. You're like,
Yeah.
crap, I could have done better with that.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed enough, and it's comfortable enough to where I really enjoy doing it. Well, if you guys want to send me more compliments, no. But yeah, I would definitely thank you for actually letting me interview you, because I know you're a very busy man with a radio station, and yes, folks, he has a band, and yes, ladies, he's married with 2 really good kids.
Yeah, they are. They're my sweethearts.
Yeah, they what's that saying? To see the face of children is to see the face of God. I mean,
Yes.
if God were twins, yeah, they're just really good kids.
They are. They're my son Darren is 11. My daughter Amber is 9, and they are some really good kids. I'm very proud of them.
And I'm sure they're just as proud as you. You know, holding down the fort and sending out the airways.
Yeah, and I get them on here. I get them on here occasionally.
Yeah, I think it was
early.
not this year, but last year. I was sitting there. I was sitting and listening to the show, and I thought, you know, I really feel like alone by myself. And I think it was partially Blue Christmas was playing. I don't know if that song has anything to do with it. But after that, before they went to school, you came on and you just told them, you know, to say Merry Christmas or Season 3 or something like that. And they gave you a hug and a kiss on the air. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, you make it feel like, and the other DJs too, make it feel like if you don't have family around you, you're part of the family.
Right.
And I like that.
That's one of the keys, I think, pulls all the DJs of the mix together, is because it's all one big, we treat it as one big family.
Yeah.
You know, one big 95 The Mix family. We have a WhatsApp group on WhatsApp Messenger, and we send each other messages from time to time, and when someone in the group is having a bad day, or someone's not feeling well, or someone's not just up to par, they're not feeling their best, we pray for those, you know, for those guys, and that's just what we do.
Yeah, because I've been one of them on both ends.
Yeah, it's what we do, and we make everybody at the mix feel like they are a part of the family. We hang out on Team Talk, and by the way, there is a new room on Team Talk. It's called Live on Air. The place to be during a live broadcast is what the description says. The name of the room is Live on Air, and anytime one of your favorite DJs is on the air,
yeah,
you can go and hang out in the Live on Air room on Team Talk. And the website has been updated recently to reflect this. The first link is the Team Talk server. If you go and download Team Talk, and you download the Team Talk Classic, which is the accessible version, when you select that in the installation and you download it, it will, when you click on the link above that download link for Team Talk, it will open up Team Talk and put you directly into the root channel, the main channel of the server that we are using.
Cool.
So it's very intuitive. You don't have to do anything. You just click on the link and it'll put you in there. So.
Wow. I'm impressed by that, and I'm hosting the Tech Cove.
It's really cool, but that's what we do. We treat the guys as, we treat everybody as a family member, and and family's important.
It is. Well, thank you for letting me interview. It's definitely helping me get these skills down, and I guess I should get back to work.
Yeah.
Well, it can't be work if I'm having fun, right?
Right. If you do something that you like, it's joy and a pleasure to do it. And I'm going to continue with the mix as long as God will allow me to do it. And I'm really enjoying it. And my beautiful wife, Karen, she and I are owners of the mix. And
yeah, she has a wonderful personality, too.
Yeah, she does. Yep. She's my sweetheart, too. And
you know, she might hear you talking about her like this.
Yeah. That's okay.
Hey, Karen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. Well, again, thank you for letting me interview.
Ghouls Galore, formerly Rent-A-Ghoul.
Ghouls Galore, formerly Rent-A-Ghoul.
What a goal?
How many ghouls do you need?
4,000.
4,000 ghouls. May I ask what this is for?
Republican Convention.
Did you say the Republican National Convention? Oh, the Republican All-Ghoul Convention. Right. If you don't mind my asking, don't you have enough of your own ghouls?
Fill hall because
you need to fill the hall because... Gotcha, because the Democratic All-Demon Convention down the street.
Right.
Would you like a mixed batch?
What do you suggest?
What do I suggest? Well, certainly slobbering ghouls and drooling ghouls. And what's the difference? It's saliva count. Drooling ghouls are non-stop saliva.
What are ghouls?
Oh, we also have groaning ghouls, grinning ghoul, gaseous ghoul. Outlawed.
Yeah, gaseous ghoul.
Oh, yes, the Great Gaseous Ghoul Disaster. Yeah, well, that incident happened in a confined space after a Western barbecue of beans and chili.
Cigar?
Yes, unfortunately, someone did light a cigar. Applauding ghouls, well, no, our ghouls aren't bright enough to hit two hands together, but they're very good at clubbing one another.
Solidarity.
Oh, you need to show ghoul solidarity. Do you need applauding ghouls?
Christ, yes.
Okay. Well, with their lack of intelligence, it's just what you need for a political convention. But I'll tell you what we did do for that SWAT Nagger campaign.
Yeah.
A machine created the applause, just like on TV.
Okay, yep. Cheering ghouls?
Oh, cheering ghouls, of course. We also have gleeful ghouls.
Goose steppers?
Goose stepping ghoul.
Yeah.
Yes, no, they're out of fashion at the moment.
Oh, boy.
But we do have good old boy ghouls.
Oh, good old.
They will certainly represent a large part of your bashing ghouls?
Yeah.
Yes, you bet.
Club?
Yes, every ghoul comes with his own club. But our insurance provider will want to know who it is you plan to bash.
Liberals?
Liberals, are there any left to bash? You're bashing fellow conservatives by accusing them of being liberal.
Speak to a ghoul.
You'd like to speak to a ghoul?
Yeah.
All right, what type?
Good old ghoul.
A good old boy, right.
No, ghoul.
Sweeney, will you put Billy Bob, the basher, on?
I didn't ask for a basher.
I know you didn't ask for a basher ghoul, so I bet many of our ghouls are bighoulingual. Billy Bob's on, go ahead.
Yeah, well, go ahead. Yeah, I do. Okay, all set.
Oh, well, we're all set then. Well, thank you so much for calling Ghouls Galore.
Yeah, nice day.
And you too, Mr. Rowe.
Thanks for listening to today's Tech Cove. We hope you've enjoyed today's program. Tune in again next week at the same time for another edition of The Tech Cove with your host, Sean Hosberry. This is Derek Barnes, your announcer, speaking.